What if I told you that the perfect looking spot you just drilled, that classic drop-off, that sharp inside turn, is the one place on the entire lake that fish are born to fear? It sounds crazy, right? We spend all this time looking for structure, for those textbook locations. But today we're talking about a fatal flaw in how most of us approach those spots. We're going to uncover why you might be drilling your ice hole in a location that fish are genetically programmed to avoid. This isn't a theory, it's biology. By the end of this video, you will understand the one simple, powerful reason fish are spooking before your lure even hits the water. This could be the biggest aha moment you have on the ice all season. Think about your go-to spot right now. What makes it your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and then stick around to see if it falls into the trap we're about to expose. For generations, we've been taught the same things about ice fishing. Find the structure, you'll find the fish. We hunt for points, sunken humps, weed lines, and sharp drop-offs. Our digital maps are covered in waypoints, marking these spots. Our grandfathers did it, our fathers did it, and we do it without a second thought. It's the gospel of ice fishing. And for the most part, it's true. Fish relate to structure. But here's the part nobody talks about: how we fish that structure. We pull up to a promising-looking point, see the contour lines stacked up on the GPS, and we drill. We assume that anywhere on that prime real estate is a good place to be. This habit, this automatic way of thinking, is exactly what's costing us fish. We're ignoring a critical variable that fish never ignore: safety. We're so focused on the map that we're blind to the real-world environment beneath the ice, and we're about to show you why that's a game-losing mistake. Let's start by setting a common scene. It's early morning, the ice is quiet, you've studied your lake map for hours, and you have the perfect spot picked out. A sharp point that drops from 10 feet down to 25. Classic walleye territory. You ride your machine right out to the sweet spot where the drop is steepest. You pull the auger, fire it up, and drill a hole. Everything feels right. The location is perfect, according to everything you've ever learned. You drop your transducer in the hole and see exactly what you wanted: a clean, hard bottom, maybe a few rocks, and that beautiful dark void of deep water right next to you. You might even mark a fish or two on the flasher. But then nothing happens. The marks fade away. The screen goes blank. You sit there full of confidence in your spot, but the fish just aren't cooperating. You tell yourself it's a tough bite, or maybe you need to change your lure for the 10th time. But the real problem happened 3 minutes before you ever started fishing. The problem isn't the structure itself. That point is an excellent piece of fish holding structure. The problem is the exact spot you chose to drill. You, like millions of other anglers, have likely just drilled a hole directly in what we're going to call the acoustic kill zone. This zone has a very specific set of characteristics. It's an area with a very hard bottom, like sand, gravel, or solid rock, that sits immediately adjacent to a piece of cover or structure, like a weed bed or a steep drop-off. It looks perfect on paper. It's the transition area, the highway, the ambush point. It's everything we're told to look for. But in reality, you've just set up your ambush in the middle of a brightly lit, open field with a megaphone strapped to your chest. To a fish, this specific spot isn't an opportunity, it's a death trap. And their genetics, honed over thousands of years, are screaming at them to get as far away from you as possible. To understand why this spot is so bad, we need to talk about sound. We live in the air, so we have a poor understanding of how sound works underwater. Sound travels nearly 5 times faster in water than in air, and it carries with incredible efficiency. When you fire up your gas or electric auger, you're not just making a little noise, you are creating a massive, violent pressure wave that radiates out from your hole in every direction. It's not just a hum or a whine, It's a high-intensity, threatening event in the fish's world. Think of it like this. On the surface, it's the sound of a power tool, but to a fish 10 feet below you, it's the equivalent of a fighter jet taking off right next to their ear. And that's just the start. The real problem isn't just the noise you make, but where you choose to make it, because the bottom composition of the lake will either muffle that sound or amplify it tenfold. Now let's consider how different bottom types handle that sound. Imagine you were in a room with thick carpet, heavy curtains, and a soft couch. If you clap your hands, the sound is deadened. It's muffled. That's a soft, muddy, or silty bottom. It's a weedy bottom. These materials absorb the sound waves from your auger and your movements on the ice. The sound is still there, but it's muted, less jarring, and it doesn't travel as far with the same intensity. The fish still hear you, but it's more like a distant rumble than an immediate threat. It's a noise they can investigate or ignore. But that's not where you drilled. You drilled on that nice, clean, hard bottom area. You chose the spot that looks best on the sonar, and in doing so you chose the worst possible place from an acoustic standpoint. That hard, flat bottom of sand, gravel, or rock acts like an acoustic mirror. Think of it as a concert hall with perfect acoustics, or an empty garage with concrete walls and a concrete floor. When you make a noise in that garage, it doesn't just happen once. It echoes, it reverberates, it amplifies. It's sharp, loud, and overwhelming. This is exactly what happens under the ice in the acoustic kill zone. The sound waves from your auger smash into that hard bottom, and instead of being absorbed, they are reflected back up and out with extreme efficiency. The noise doesn't just radiate, it explodes. You've created an underwater earthquake of sound in the very spot you intend to fish. Every footstep you take, every time you scrape the ice from your hole, you are sending out another shockwave, telling every fish in the area that a large, noisy predator is directly above them. So, we've established that you're making a tremendous amount of noise in a spot that acts like an amplifier. But why does this matter so much to the fish? This is where genetics come in. This isn't about fish being smart or dumb. This is about pure, hardwired survival instinct. For thousands and thousands of years, what has happened to fish that hang out in exposed open areas? They get eaten. Predatory birds like loons and herons, mammals like otters and mink, and bigger fish like pike and muskies. They all hunt on these edges. The open, featureless area next to cover is the most dangerous place a smaller fish can be. It offers zero protection and no escape routes. It's the equivalent of a gazelle wandering 100 yards away from the herd into an open savanna. It's a bad evolutionary strategy. Because of this constant predator pressure over millennia, a powerful genetic trait has been selected for the fish that were cautious, the ones that stayed in the weeds, the ones that hugged the rocks, the ones that bolted at the first sign of danger in an open area. Those are the ones that survived to reproduce. The bold ones, the ones that hung out in the open. They became lunch. This has created a fish that has a deeply ingrained, reflexive fear of being exposed. Their entire existence is a balance between finding food and not becoming food. When you drill your hole in that open, hard-bottomed kill zone, you are triggering every single one of their alarm bells. You are a loud, threatening presence in the most dangerous possible location from their perspective. They don't sit around and wonder what you are. Their DNA simply screams, "Danger! Flee!" Let's put ourselves in their fins for a moment. Imagine you're a walleye cruising along the safety of a deep weed line. It's your home, your cover. Out in front of you is a flat, sandy expanse. You might dart out there to grab a minnow, but you never linger. It's dangerous ground. Suddenly a deafening, grinding roar erupts from directly above that sandy flat. The water shakes, the pressure changes. It's a sound and vibration totally alien to your world, and it's coming from the one place you already know you are most vulnerable. What is your reaction? It's not curiosity. It's not aggression. It's pure, unadulterated panic. Your instinct isn't to swim towards the noise to see if it's food. Your instinct is to retreat deeper into the weeds, to bury yourself in the mud, or to flee down the drop-off into deep water as fast as you possibly can. You are now in survival mode, not feeding mode. This is why you'll often see marks on your flasher the moment you drop the transducer, only to watch them vanish within seconds. Those were the fish that were on the edge or passing through. Your arrival sent them scrambling for safety. They didn't just move off. They were actively spooked by your presence, and they've now associated that specific spot with extreme danger. They aren't likely to come back anytime soon. This explains countless frustrating days on the ice. The days you know you're in a good area, the map says it's perfect. You might even have good reports from the day before, but you can't buy a bite. You might be sitting just 10 or 20 feet from a huge school of fish, but you've inadvertently set up shop in their designated no-fly zone, and they're treating your lure like it has the plague. So how do we avoid this fundamental mistake? The first step is learning to identify the acoustic kill zone. This is where your electronics are absolutely crucial. Before you drill, you can often get a good idea of the bottom, but after you drill is when you get confirmation. Drop your transducer and pay close attention to the bottom reading on your flasher or graph. A hard bottom will give you a very distinct return. On a flasher, it will typically be a very sharp, thin, and bright band of color. Usually red, it's a very crisp signal. On a graph, it will be a clean, thin, and well-defined line. You won't see much clutter or fuzz right on the bottom. This clean, sharp return is the signal for a hard, sound-reflecting bottom. When you see this, and you know you're on an exposed piece of structure, you should be on high alert. You might be in the wrong spot. Now contrast that hard bottom signal with a soft bottom return. A soft, muddy or silty bottom will show up on your flasher as a much thicker, less defined band of color. It might be yellow or green, and it will be wider. On a graph, the bottom line will look softer, thicker, and you'll often see more clutter or a fuzzy return right near the bottom. This indicates that the sonar signal is penetrating into the bottom and being absorbed or scattered, not reflected sharply. This is the sign of a sound-absorbent bottom, and the same goes for thick weeds. They will show up as masses on your screen, and they are excellent at dampening sound. Recognizing the difference between a hard, reflective bottom and a soft, absorbent one is the key skill you need to develop. It's the difference between fishing in a library and fishing in a rock concert. The solution, then, is beautifully simple. It's not about finding entirely new spots. It's about making a small but critical adjustment to how you fish your existing spots. Once you've identified that hard bottom acoustic kill zone right on the edge of the structure, you need to consciously avoid it. Do not drill there. Instead, the strategy is to move, but we're not talking about moving 100 yards. We're talking about moving just 10 to 15 feet. The goal is to get off that exposed, acoustically hostile ground and get directly into or onto the cover that the fish are using for safety. You want to make your noise in a place that feels safe to them, where the sound is muffled, and where your presence is less alarming. This tiny shift in position is a complete game changer. Let's go back to our example of the sharp point that drops from 10 to 25 feet. The old method was to drill right on the hard bottom edge of that drop. The new, smarter method is to make a deliberate move. Option 1, move up, shallower by 10 or 15 feet, and drill your hole right in the middle of the weed bed that you marked on your map. Your auger noise will be dampened by the weeds. When you drop your lure, it will be presented to fish that are using those weeds for cover and feel secure. You are now fishing in their living room, not shouting at them from their front yard. They are far more likely to react with curiosity and aggression rather than fear. This simple move changes the entire dynamic of the encounter before you even start fishing. Option 2, if there aren't any weeds, is to focus on the composition of the drop-off itself. Instead of drilling on the flat, hard-bottom top edge, try drilling directly on the slope of the drop-off. Often the slope will be a softer bottom, a mix of silt and rubble that has tumbled down. This softer transition will absorb sound better than the scraped, clean top. Or if the structure is a rock pile, don't drill on the sand flat next to the pile. Get right on top of the jumble of rocks. The uneven nature of the rocks will help to break up and scatter the sound waves, making them less direct and threatening. The key is to think three-dimensionally. Don't just look at the lines on the map. Use your electronics to find the spots that offer acoustic cover as well as physical cover. This concept applies to every species of fish you target through the ice. Perch and crappies, which often school up on basin flats, will almost always relate to the softer bottomed areas of that basin. They will avoid the hard-packed sand or clay areas if a softer, muck-bottomed area is nearby. Why? Because the softer bottom is where the insects and invertebrates they feed on live, and it's acoustically safer. When you find a school of perch, pay attention to the bottom reading. I'll bet you they are sitting over a thicker, fuzzier bottom return. By targeting these specific zones, you are aligning your strategy with their natural, genetically driven preferences for both food and safety. You are working with their biology, not against it. Think about the social aspect of ice fishing too. When a group of anglers finds a school of fish, what happens? Everyone swarms to the same spot. Trucks drive up, augers start ripping, and the area is subjected to a constant barrage of noise and vibration. This is often happening on a classic, hard bottom piece of structure. The bite is hot for the first 10 minutes and then it dies completely. Why? The fish didn't just stop biting, they were forced out by the acoustic pressure. The few anglers who understand this concept will quietly back away from the group, move 100 feet to where the bottom composition changes to something softer, and keep catching fish all day long while the main group complains about the bite shutting down. They understand the invisible factor that is driving the fish. This isn't just about the noise of drilling either. It's about everything you do on the ice. Dropping your scoop, stomping your feet to stay warm, slamming the door of your shack. All of these actions send potent vibrations through the ice and into the water. On a soft bottom, these are minor disturbances. On a hard bottom, they are sharp, percussive events that keep fish on edge. This is why being quiet and deliberate in your movements is so much more critical when you're forced to fish on a hard bottom area. You need to minimize every single sound, but the better strategy is to avoid setting up in that acoustically live environment in the first place. Choose your spot wisely and you can afford to be a little less stealthy. So let's break the habit. The next time you go out, resist the urge to drill on the most obvious, cleanest looking spot on the edge of structure. See that spot, identify it, and then consciously decide to fish 10, 15, or 20 feet away from it, deeper inside the cover. Start thinking of hard, flat bottoms adjacent to structure, not as prime real estate, but as a warning sign. Use your flasher not just to find fish, but to find the right kind of bottom. This is a shift from a two-dimensional map-based approach to a three-dimensional habitat-based approach. It requires a little more thought and a little more work with your electronics, but the payoff is enormous. You will spook fewer fish, and you will present your bait to fish that are more relaxed, more secure, and most importantly, in a feeding mood. This might be a tough pill to swallow for some. It goes against a lot of what we've been told. We love seeing that crisp, clean bottom on the sonar because it's easy to read. It makes our lure stand out. But we have to realize that what's convenient for us as anglers is often the exact opposite of what a fish wants. They don't want to stand out, they want to blend in, they want cover, they want security. They are genetically programmed to seek out environments that offer them the best chance of survival. The hard-bottomed, open acoustic kill zone is the antithesis of that. It's a place of danger, and our noisy arrival is the final confirmation for them to stay far, far away. By making this small adjustment, we are finally aligning our tactics with their most basic, powerful instinct. The ultimate test is to try this yourself. The next time you're on a familiar spot where the bite is often tough, do this experiment. Drill one hole where you normally would on that clean, hard edge. Then drill a second hole just 15 feet away, deeper in the weeds or on a softer bottom part of the slope. Fish both holes. I am willing to bet that the difference will be stunning. You will likely find that the hole inside the cover not only produces more fish, but the bites will be more aggressive. The fish will be less tentative. You are no longer an intruder in their danger zone. You are a potential meal appearing in their safe space. This single change in your drilling location, based on understanding their genetic programming, can fundamentally change your success on the ice. So let's bring it all together. For decades, we've been so focused on finding structure that we've completely ignored the single most important factor from the fish's point of view: safety. We've been drilling our holes in the acoustic kill zone, that hard-bottomed, featureless area right next to cover. It's a spot that amplifies every sound we make and represents the most dangerous possible place for a fish to be. It triggers a fear response that's been baked into their DNA for millions of years. The big aha moment here is that the solution isn't to find new spots, but to fish our old spots smarter. By simply moving 10 or 15 feet off the hard-bottomed kill zone and into the sound-dampening safety of weeds or a softer bottom, we change the entire game. We go from being a terrifying threat to a subtle opportunity. This simple shift can and will be the difference between a skunked day and a full bucket. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you rethink your own strategy, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges old fishing wisdom. And now I want to ask you, now that you know about this acoustic kill zone, have you ever realized you've been fishing one all day? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it.